Tell me, were you promoted yet? Well, just to recap, I called to order at 7:09 p.m. and the YouTube live stream began at, I believe, at 7:11 p.m. Um, with that, we'll begin today's meeting. Are there any amendments to the agenda?
Can we go slow through these? There's gonna be a lot, I can imagine.
Edison?
Yeah. Hello. Could we just first of all, could we just strike SFS allocations? And then after that, for appointments, could we just add an item for the Student Risk and Education Committee? I would like to appoint myself as well as an individual called Lisbeth.
And then,
Uh,
Edison, what's the first and last name of the second person?
Okay, let me just send it in the chat because I don't want to butcher her last name as well. Give me a moment. Okay, yeah, sending it right now. Yeah, and then I also would like to add the CS mini funding guidelines under new business.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay, that'll be all from me. Thank you.
thank you.
So Diego, because the guidelines are a voting item, you need a motion to add it then.
Okay.
Oh,
Er,
okay, I can do the motion. Yeah, so motion to add CS mini funding guidelines to the agenda.
Is there a second?
I second.
Edison motions, Tommy seconds, all in favor, please lower your hands first, everyone. Um, and then now please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining. With a vote to 12 to 0 to 0, that item is approved, and so that goes on our agenda. Thank you. Now you can return your hands if you had a requested amendments to the agenda. Hannah?
Sorry, could I strike SQC programming fund allocations from the agenda? Thank you.
Sherry?
Hi, this is Sherry. Can I strike bag allocations? Um, and then, sorry, and then also could I add a special presentation on Regents advocacy?
Of course. Thank you.
All right, David, you can go to the next people. I've added those.
Okay, thank you. Do you have the link?
Sherry, could you please send that link in the chat?
Yeah.
Thank you. Bethany?
Hi, can I please strike capital contingency allocations as well as contingency allocations? Thank you.
Thank you, Joy.
I had three things. First, can I strike TJF allocations? And then second, can we put TGIF guidelines and application for approval on the agenda, please?
For which one? Sorry, the last one?
TGIF guidelines and application.
I think those are voting items.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the correct language for this?
I motion to add, you put which ones again? TGIF funding guidelines and application. I just
Yeah.
motion to add, then you the language.
Okay. I move to add TGIF guidelines and applications for approval onto the agenda for September 16th.
Is there a second?
Second.
Was that Daniel?
Yep.
Joy motions, Daniel seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining. With a vote of 11 to 0, the 2025-2026 TGIF funding guidelines and application is approved to be on our agenda for September 16th. Again, can you please raise your hands if you have any other amendments?
Oh,
And
sorry.
Joy, you want to add your?
Yeah, I had one more.
Yeah.
Okay, so my last thing was can we please add it's for an appointment, Ariella and Betty for the Campus Sustainability Committee. I'd like to approve them today by consent, and then I can add their first and last names into the chat. Okay.
All right, thank you, Nico.
Hi everyone, two things. Can I start by striking Bruin card grant allocations and laundry grant allocations? And then I also motion to add the USA/BOD Programming Fund application and guidelines to the agenda.
Thank you. And then I think those are also action items. So if you'd like to motion.
I did motion already.
Okay, sorry. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Nico motions, Daniel seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining. With a vote to 12 to 0, that motion is approved and that will be on today's agenda. Are there any final amendments? Chris Espino?
Yeah, thanks, Diego. May I please strike off academic success referendum fund and travel grant relief fund?
Okay, thank you. Divine?
Hi everyone, can we please strike ARC allocations?
Thank you. And Hannah?
Wait, sorry, Tommy, do we need to add our appointments to the agenda, or will you be doing that?
Yeah, that's me. I'm gonna go last. There's like 10 of them.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Tommy?
And then yes, I do have some appointments to add. So I have Tanishka Gangavelli for the Drug Free Schools Committee. Or let me motion because these are all voting. Tanishka Gangavelli for the Drug Free Schools Committee, Madison Jones to the Committee of LGBTQ Affairs, Tracy Le to the Academic Senate Legislative Assembly, Nicole Saman to the BMAC, Jalen Hahn as the chair of the CSC Mini Fund, Divine Oludumu for the Academic Senate Kodi Committee, Arman Aksu to the Academic Senate Legislative Assembly, Arya Darvish to the Data Governance Committee, and then I have Lori Shrikian, and let me just confirm the committee for her. And then we have Lori to the Campus Programs Committee. And I motion to add those to the agenda.
Is there a second?
I second the motion. This is Talia.
Tommy motions, Talia seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. All abstaining. With a vote to 9-0, those appointments are approved to be on our September 16th agenda. Are there any other amendments to today's agenda? Yes, Edison?
Sorry, just one thing. So just now when I mentioned the CS mini funding guidelines, there was also an application that I forgot about. Do I have to re-motion or could we just amend it as it is?
The CS mini funding ones or which ones?
Yes, the CS mini funding guidelines. There was a application as well, but I forgot to mention it.
I think we might have to motion to add the application.
Okay, then can I motion to add CS mini funding application to the agenda?
Is there a second?
I second.
Was that Daniel?
That was Jaya.
Sorry. CS mini funding application. Oh, sorry. Edison motions, JS seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. All abstaining. With a vote to 12-0, the CS mini funding application is approved to be on our September 16th agenda. Now, are there any final amendments, Tommy?
Yes, and then Jonathan, are we gonna have to remotion these? When the guidelines were emailed to me originally prior to the agenda being sent out, it was just the funding guidelines. But now I see that there's applications and additional things that need to be voted on, so will those all require to be remotioned?
Yeah, I would just do it as one sweeping motion to add them all.
Okay, then let me get organized for a sec to pull up everything. DoD funding guideline. All right, so I'm gonna do a motion to add ASRF TGMF funding application and guidelines to the agenda, contingency funding application and guidelines to the agenda, SFS funding application and guidelines to the agenda, CS transfer funding guidelines and application to the agenda, SWC funding application and guidelines to the agenda, ARC funding guidelines and application to the agenda, and BAG funding application guidelines to the agenda.
Is there a second?
I second.
Tommy motions, JS seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. Now all abstaining. With a vote of 12-0, the BAG funding application, the ARC funding application, the SWC funding application, the CS transfer funding application, and the SFS funding application, the contingency funding application, and the ASRF TGMF funding application are to be voted on for the September 16th agenda. Sherry?
Wait, okay. I just texted Jonathan about this, but if like if our funding like body application is still being edited, like am I still able to take that off and get them voted on week 1? Or did we just vote to like keep it to?
We just voted right now to keep it. Are they still being edited, you said?
Wait, I can like finish editing them like before, but I don't know.
Chris?
Yeah, mine are still being edited by my directors because there are some changes we're doing, but I didn't motion to include mine this week. I just motioned to scratch them off this week.
Sherry, if we don't like have them done like and adding the links, maybe it's just easier to like wait on. Is it bag, right?
Yeah, it's bad. They're not like major, anything major. Like if we're voting on it today, we're just finishing up edits and we can finish it.
I think we might have to bring it up to another vote to change the guidelines. So we would still have to vote either way.
Huh?
Like if we vote to approve them today, if they're not changed, we would have to vote them to change them again next week. Sherry, Jonathan?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, so the ASRF guidelines and applications should be removed, Chris?
Yes, because we're doing last minute changes to it.
Okay, just keep in mind that if you don't pass them tonight, you cannot open the fund until earliest week 1 Wednesday. These need to be approved before the applications are open entirely.
Yeah, we have them, it's usually scheduled for them to be open Friday of week 1. So it does go according to plan.
So does it apply for the same thing for Sherry's case?
Yes, it applies for any funding body. If
Yeah,
you do not approve them tonight, your next opportunity to approve them will be week 1 Tuesday night, which means you'll be able to open earliest week 1 Wednesday.
Sherry?
Oh, we'll just keep them on because they're just minor changes.
All right, and then I'll motion to remove ASRF guidelines and application from the agenda since Chris said those will not be ready right now.
Okay.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Tommy motion, Talia seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. All abstaining with a vote to 10 to 0 to 0, that motion is approved. So you're gonna strike. Is that for striking it, Tommy?
Yes.
Okay. Well, okay.
And then I need links from Sherry, Edison, and Joy for those applications. If you could send them in the chat, that'd be amazing.
Chris?
Yeah, I was going to request if Armand can be one of the first appointments tonight because he has training at 9, if that's possible. I don't want to miss an academic senate appointment tonight.
Tommy?
Yeah, that's fine. I'll just put him to the top of the list. I don't think that requires a vote.
Last call for amendments. Oh, okay, yes, sorry about that, folks. I motion to add an executive session regarding financial matters to the USAC budget. Can someone second?
I second.
I motion, Tommy seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining. With a vote to 10 to 0 to 0, that executive session is approved to be on our September 16th agenda. Okay, can Joy?
Sorry, I accidentally raised my hand.
Okay, no worries. We need a motion to approve today's agenda. Is there a motion? Is there a motion to approve today's agenda?
I motion to approve today's agenda on September 16th, 2025, 7 p.m. meeting.
I second that motion.
Tommy motions, Chris seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Thank you. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining. With vote to 10 to 0, that agenda is approved for September 16th. We'll now move on to approval of the minutes. I think we can skip over that for today, and give folks the opportunity to review the agenda. No, sorry, approve of review the minutes. Are there any students here now for public comments? I'll open up public comment today at 7:31 p.m. If so, can you please raise your hands so Tommy can call on you? Final call for public comment. Seeing as they're done, I will close public comment today at 7:31 p.m. We will now be transitioning over to our special presentations from Safe Place for Youth. I'm not sure who the presenter is. If you're a presenter, can you please raise your hand so Tommy can promote you? Tommy, do you know who this is? Who this person is?
No, I do not.
Does anybody know who this person is?
I'm gonna check right now and I will keep y'all posted. But we can go to the SGA presentation first if that works for you all.
All right, thank you. Yeah, we can move it on to the third. So for C, so SJ and then the Regents advocacy, if that's okay. So yeah, I think, thank you, Jessica. We'll hand it off over to, I think Josh is here.
Hello, everyone. Welcome and congratulations formally on your election and appointments. Beverly and I are here today to kind of give you an overview of some key changes and new policies regarding funding allocations and requisition submissions for the new year. We do have a presentation which Beverly will go ahead and share that with you guys so we can have a visual.
Yeah, Tommy, if you can give them access. You guys are gonna be screen sharing, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, bear with me a moment. There we go.
Hello?
Yes.
Yes, you can all see my screen.
We can see your screen, but we can't really hear you that well. Or at least I can't hear you that well, Beverly.
Okay, I'll move closer. So hi, everyone. My name is Beverly. I'm the accounting assistant manager at SGA, and I'm excited to fill you in with a few things we've been working on to make your lives easier. So over the past few months, we've been making changes to help student orgs run more smoothly, especially when it comes to all the fun stuff like budgets, finances, and requisitions. So today, I'll walk you through the different types of requisition and what backup documents you'll need. So you'll get everything processed quickly, no delays, no confusion, no back and forth emails, which we want to avoid, and make it as simple and stress-free as possible. And now, there you go. So just a quick intro. SGA stands for Student Government Accounting. We are a team that helps manage and oversee financial accounting for undergraduate and graduate students. Basically, we make sure the books are organized and balanced. And we process requisitions, deposits, stipends, and we also serve as direct advisors to the funding bodies and help facilitate allocations and disbursement of funds used by student organizations. Next slide. So different kinds of requisition. First is cash advance. If you need money before your event to cover expenses, this one's for you. Next is honorariums. If you want to pay a guest speaker or performer, this is how you pay individuals for their time or expertise. Next is purchase order or invoice. If you're working with a company for things like catering, rentals, t-shirt printing, this is the form you'll use to pay them directly. And then next is reimbursement. If you already paid out of pocket, you can get your money back through this form. So next slide. This is a quick cheat sheet of what you need before submitting a requisition. So first, let's go over what they all have in common. All recs need a GL account number, which is the 21 digit. And then next is the Bruin card. So for backup documents, for cash advance, we need the estimate of expenses. Screenshot of your shopping carts will do. Under honorarium, we need the W-9 form and the W-8BN for non-residents and a contract agreement. And then for purchase order, we only need the PO or invoice from your vendor. And then the W-9 form and reimbursements, we need a clear copy of your receipts and the proof of payment. And then you can proceed to the USAC website. So now this is the new requisition process. We still have a standard processing time of 7 to 10 business days. So for the first step, student will initiate the rec incognito. So just go to the USAC website and fill out the form and upload the backup documents, then submit. After that, the SGA staff will audit and SGA manager will approve. After that, the requisitions will be sent to the signatories. So FICOM and the org rep will receive the DocuSign both at the same time. So once all the signatories are done, it will be sent directly to SGA and we'll prepare the checks to submit to the Director of Treasury. And then once the Director of Treasury reviews the backup that you uploaded and the signatures of the approvers, they will sign the checks and SGA will pick up the signed checks and email notification will be sent out to all the payees that the checks are ready for pickup and or mail out. And then next slide for the fund allocation process. So first, funding body will enter the allocations to the USAC budget sheet. So it's gonna be real time. And then SGA will issue unique account codes and update the Google Sheet upon receipt and notification of the allocation by SGS. And then after that, allocations will be stored and saved electronically by SGA or SGS. And then you will receive a confirmation and an automatic confirmation that the codes are ready to be distributed to your recipients. So, so once the account codes are confirmed, funding chair will distribute accounts to the groups for use on the requisition or payment requests. So, so for number 6, this is just a reminder, budget transfers may be made within the same fund from which allocations were made and only during the period they were awarded. Funds may not be transferred between funding bodies. And then Next, allocations and related accounts will be closed and liquidated on a quarterly basis unless otherwise directed by funding chairs. So for restrictions, once account has been closed, it may not be reopened. All requests for payments must be made before the related submission deadline, which will be discussed in the slide 11. So for your resources, any questions or concerns related to allocations may be directed to Lorelai or Josh or myself. So for additional process, cash advance, pays are expected to reconcile receipts within 2 weeks. You must log back into the rec form and upload the actual receipts. Instead of coming to the SGA office in person, you're now able to just upload the actual receipts on the website. So if you spend less, a check must be written to ASUCLA-USA for the remaining cash advance. If you spend more, you may request for funding to cover the remaining balance. So for purchase orders, SGA has an internal PO that will be issued as a payment assurance. Payee will need to submit final invoice for check processing. You guys can send it to us via email. And then SGA will only be able to process the approved amount. Anything over the approved amount are the responsibility of the commission or organization. And then I think I'll pass the mic to Josh now because I've already used my daily word limit.
Thank you,
He
Beverly.
promised
I accept.
he promised to keep the rest of the slides both informative and painless. So
Yes, well, you can control those, please, for me.
that will be it for me. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you. In addition, we're just kind of doing, as you may notice, some of you who are familiar with these processes, and those of you that aren't, these are some just very basic, important guidelines for what you need for your submissions. Reimbursements, different types. So if you purchase gift cards, we do need a list of recipients, as well as any necessary or relevant statements of purpose. Mileage, screenshots of a Google map showing the distance from point A to point B. We will calculate round trip and reimburse based on what the current IRS reimbursement rate is for mileage. We do have exceptions for things like rental cars where we will reimburse gas with receipts as well as the map included. For retreats and conferences expenses, we do also require the same thing, including also an agenda. And just to kind of circle back to the requisition process, the new submission process, because that is what we wanted to drive home today with you guys, because it is the freshest information. We have added DocuSign, which is going to be the new method for obtaining signatures for any signatory approvals for requisition submissions of any kind. So what that means is once a rec is submitted by an org rep or a preparer through the USAC website, it will go immediately to SGA, who will then audit it. We will then, if there is an issue, it will be returned to the preparer. This year, PDFs will not be sent back directly to the preparer. They will come through SGA, and if they are approved, will be sent via DocuSign to relevant funding bodies, at which point you will be required to provide your signature. Once all those signatures are obtained, the PDF will go back to SGA. We will then, there is a separate email that we've generated that will now be receiving all of those signed documents, just to cut down on the volume of emails, excess and unnecessary communication, and duplication of submissions. So once we receive it, we do, like as Beverly mentioned, have that same 7 to 10 day turnaround. And this will ideally and theoretically speed up our processing times and lower the amount of work that the funding chairs need to do in terms of merging documents and communicating back and forth to multiple parties. So that said, I will move on. Just a quick overview of general restrictions. Again, as you all probably know, but I will reiterate that we do not we do not pay for purchase of alcohol, illegal substances, tobacco, hazardous items, anything that looks like a weapon, whether it be for a theater production or whatnot, PSA, anything, medical equipment such as sharps, scalpels, needles, injections, just the basics. Next slide, please. Limitations on what we're able to use USAC funding for and the types of payments we're able to process and reimburse. We are not able, and I cannot stress this enough, this has been an issue of confusion and lack of conveying this information as wide and far as possible. We do not reimburse third-party Venmo payments, Zelle payments, PayPal, Cash App, anything of that nature. Also, no cash payments will be accepted. You are not able to pay anyone directly with cash and be reimbursed for that. That goes for businesses as well. Next slide, please. And this is a snapshot of the hard deadlines for the 25-26 year, fall, winter, spring, and commencement related excuse me, deadlines are listed here. And the submission form for all types of requisitions will hard close on June 18th of 26. That means 11:59, June 18th is the last at 11:59 and 59 seconds, and we will not be accepting requisition submissions after that point. Unfortunately, that means if you do not submit before that time, no matter what the expense is, we will not be able to assist in processing payment. Next slide, please. Also, we have a new process for canceling checks for reissue. A lot of times addresses are incorrect. People move often during the year. If you do need to cancel a check, you are now able to go to the same website that you submit your requisitions through. We will have a cancel check request form available. You will indicate your reason for the cancel and reissue, provide your Bruin ID for verification. We will verify it whether or not it's actually been cleared at the bank. Again, the same processing time of 7 to 10 business days. And all of this, as Beverly mentioned as well, is to make all of our lives easier and to actually get you guys more involved and invested and focused on the actual events that you guys are putting on. So I will go on to the next slide, please. I believe that's it. Okay, so I guess we'll open the floor to any questions if there are any. And just to also let you know, these are very new processes. We are still developing a lot of and fine-tuning a lot of the specifics of things. We will be providing requisition clinics for reiteration of this information, refreshing. If you have any questions, you're always more than welcome to come by the SGA office, SGS office. We are now currently located next door to one another, which hopefully will also be something that makes everything that you guys are trying to do this year a little bit easier. With that, I will give the floor back to you guys.
Thank you so much, Josh and Beverly. We really appreciate you coming on and presenting the updated, not updated policies, just in general for a reminder. I don't know if this is a good point for question and answer, but if any other council members have any brief questions that they think Beverly or Josh can answer for them. Yes, Daniel.
Sorry, I don't know if I missed that at the beginning. I was cutting out a little bit. But for the new rec process, if there's a problem with the rec, is it still gonna go back to the original person like it used to?
Only if there's a problem. So at this
Okay.
point, the preparer will not be receiving the approved PDF. The approved PDF, if it is ready to move forward, will go directly to any party that needs to sign for approval. So there won't be the process of the preparer needing to forward it to the funding director. The system will automatically send that via DocuSign to the necessary parties for signatory approval.
Awesome, thank you.
Yep. And also, and just to kind of respect you all's time, I just want to let you know that, like I said, we are available and we will be providing updates and packets for your distribution to your awardees, going over all of these policies as well as holding rec clinics and workshops throughout the year, each quarter.
Sherry.
Hi, thank you so much for this presentation. Just wondering, would it be possible for us to like get a copy of this, just so that we can share with anyone in our office, like our finance directors and stuff like that?
Absolutely. And if you reach out to Lorelei or myself via email, either of us can provide you a copy of the slideshow today.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Any other final questions?
Can we have Jonathan explain the notification alerts that you guys will, the preparer will receive during this process?
Yeah, Jonathan.
Sorry. Yeah, so throughout this process, the system will automatically send the preparer updates. So when the requisition is approved by SGA, they'll get an update that it was sent over for signatory. And then when the check is ready, they'll get those automatic updates. When there's problem requisitions, they'll get those automatic updates. When their check is mailed, if they haven't picked it up, that will send some automatic updates as well. So throughout the whole process, even though the preparer won't need to be doing anything unless there is a problem with the rec, they'll still be getting notifications on where it's at in the process. And I don't know if this was mentioned or not, but the hope here too is that we can figure out a way to kind of download some of our information in our system and be able to kind of update that on the USAC website as a form of a rec tracker. So looking into that too. So that would be a great addition.
Thank you, Jonathan. If there are not any other final, is there anything else that you'd like to bring up, Josh or Beverly?
Also, on piggybacking on what Jonathan just told you guys, there will be consistent automatic updates. We will also be exporting. We don't know what exactly it's going to look like, but there will be a weekly posting of updates on statuses where people will be able to search for the status using their requisition number. But we will provide updates on that process and that notification system as those updates are available.
Great, thank you so much. If there are no more questions, we'll just move on to our next presentation. But thank you so much, Josh and Beverly. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. We'll now be moving on to our next agenda item, which is Regions Advocacy with Sherry. Sherry, whenever you're ready.
Yeah. I
yes.
think I have two other presenters.
Could they raise their hands, please, and then
Yeah,
talk
just I
to
think
promote
they're
them?
together, so James. And then should I screen share or here I can screen share. Okay, can you guys see that? Okay, perfect. Okay, thank you guys so much for being here. I mean, you guys have to be here, but like, thank you guys so much for listening. We wanted to do a short presentation about the UC Regents because regental advocacy and system-wide advocacy is so important, giving kind of all the things that our campus is going through. And so we wanted to provide you all with kind of a baseline knowledge of the Regents and what our office's approach to regental advocacy this year is. I know this is sort of a longer meeting, but yeah, this is pretty important. So if you all could make sure to pay attention, that would be awesome. I also wanted to introduce Numi and James from my office, who are also here presenting if you guys want to unmute and introduce yourselves.
Yes, hello. This is kind of apt because we're actually in San Francisco right now for Regions, so excited to talk to you all. My name is Numi. I am Sherry's internal head of staff, which means I handle a lot of the campus and system-wide advocacy that our office does. I'm a rising fourth year. Yeah, I think that's all.
Hello, everyone. My name is James, pronouns he, him. I am a rising second year, and I am the EVP's UC Relations Director.
Okay, awesome. We'll get started then. Here's our agenda. We're just going to go over who the Regents are and why they're important, our approach to regental advocacy, and sort of a brief rundown of our September advocacy priorities that Numi and James are in SF advocating for.
So I'm going to start. I'm sure a lot of you kind of know who the Regents are, but I want to like knowledge set just to get started about the board, its composition, like who chooses them and all of that, because I think it's really important to know and spread within your offices as well. So the Regents are the main policy-making body for the UC system. They are voted on and approved by this board because of this thing in the California Constitution called constitutional autonomy, which basically was historically created to give the UC some separation from politics so that the UC could have a little more stability as an academic institution. But what it has ultimately become is that the Regents are the final decision makers for most everything UC related. It's this clause that basically states that the Regents do not have to listen to the state legislature on most things. And I think the only caveat there is like budget related things because the state provides the UC with some funding. They are appointed by the California governor, so that is a way that like elected offices can exert influence over the regent system, but they are not democratically elected. The governor goes through an appointment process, but ultimately has final say over who ends up being a regent. They are not paid, which I think creates a very interesting situation for who is able to be a regent because these meetings are Tuesday through Thursday. They happen bi-monthly. They require a lot of travel. So I think from that, we can kind of infer the kind of people who are able to do this position. There are no qualifications to be a regent. A lot of them come from very diverse backgrounds professionally. So one of them is an astronaut. One of them is like a publicist. A lot of things that do not have a lot to do with higher education or higher education policy, which again creates a very interesting policy-making body landscape there. And they serve 12-year terms, which is also very interesting because those are very, very long terms and there's very little, as you can see, accountability measures. So like I said, they come from a lot of different walks of life. And I think that creates a very interesting viewpoint that we have to go into Regents meeting with of what they care about and how we can hold them accountable to student interests. So next slide. So what do they do? Basically everything. They establish all the policies that we have to follow. They determine the cost of attendance, employee compensation. So a lot of the time at Regents meetings, you'll see unions mobilizing pretty heavily. And they also like control like personnel management as well. Also a lot of the investments, how the UC makes its money, where we keep our money, all of that is determined by the Board of Regents. Something else I wanted to say really quickly is that basically in any state law around higher education, you'll see it'll say like the CCs and the CSUs must do this, and we strongly urge the UC to also implement this. This is because of constitutional autonomy, like the state cannot really tell the UC what to do, but a lot of the time, because of PR things, like the regents will comply with state laws. But it's also important that any legislative advocacy is supplemented with system-wide advocacy, because sometimes the more controversial state laws are not necessarily something that the UC has an interest in complying in. So it's up to us to kind of hold them accountable to that. Basically, the TLDR of all of this is that the ultimate decision maker in UC advocacy are the regents. But a key thing to note is that unlike state legislative advocacy or even federal advocacy, or local advocacy, like any kind of other advocacy, there are clear carved out pathways for you to do so. There's a system to lobbying. There's like a way that you can schedule meetings. There's constituency accountability a lot of the time. But with the regents, there is honestly very little of that. And so we're going to go through a couple ways that students can give input into the regent system in the next couple of slides. But I think what's important is to emphasize is that there is very little ways. And so it's important to be strategic and systematic about the ways that we do engage with the regents to make sure that we're actually accomplishing everything we need to.
Okay, so yeah, I'm just gonna start talking about what are the ways that individual students can actually get involved in seeing system-wide regential change. The first way to do it is public comment. So actually just going to regents meetings and speaking to the board. Things to know about that is you're allotted 1 minute per each public comment period, so it's not a very long time. There is a little bit of wiggle room in going over. You can get like an extra 10 to 15 seconds. They will call time, but it's not like they're going to pull you off or anything, so you can exercise a little more in that time. It can be about anything. You can speak and bring any measure to the regents, but it is recommended that it is kept to agenda topics that are for this specific regent meeting, so that anything you said can actually be discussed in committee. And there are 3 ways to actually deliver public comment. In person and over the phone, you will actually be calling during the public comment session, during the public comment section of the agenda. That's when you actually will be speaking. And written public comments can be submitted 48 hours in any number. And something we found with written public comments is that it really helps when you get sort of a written public comment blast, where you get 40 to 50 emails all about the same exact issue, so that the regents can see that there's a large force behind a certain issue and that there's desired change for a specific agenda item. So tips for writing a public comment. You want to start with introducing yourself, just saying where you're from so the regents can have a little background. And it also sort of humanizes you to the regents so that they're more able to connect with your story and the issue you have. And that's another way to do this, is also to provide your own issues with this issue. So it's your story of how it has affected you and maybe why you're hindered by this and how change would benefit you in the future. Also, the regents run the UC like a business, which is unfortunate, but understanding that is a way to more easily address them. So using stats and actually giving testimony, things that make sure like clear data so that the regents can actually feel that there is an issue and that they can see that there's concrete evidence to support that change must be made. Additionally, it's helpful to suggest like certain actual change that can happen, like we need funding for this, and having like an actual plan so that the regents know that if they are to support this measure, that it will be successful and it will go through, and not that it will just end up going nowhere. And so we just have an example of public comment here. I'm not going to read it out loud, but you can take a look at it if you like. We sort of just have it split into the sections where you introduce and sort of say what you're actually giving a comment on, and then testimony about how this issue has affected you and what changing it would mean for you. And then also additionally, what specific policy asks you have, and then also another specific policy ask, just because it also tied to the issue.
Yeah, so wanted to highlight also another kind of stakeholder that really connects to what we're talking about, which is UCSA, which is the University of California Students Association. It's kind of a coalition between all 9 undergrad campuses that makes up like different external affairs offices at all the UCs. And so our office participates in UCSA as a part of their board of directors, which includes the EVPs of each UC campus and 1 to 2 legislative directors and 1 to 2 organizing directors. UCSA also advocates for kind of a lot of issue-based topics, basic needs, housing, labor, campus climate, and so we have appointed officers for those as well. I bring up UCSA because they have advocated for and kind of handle a lot of the more specific methods of student advocacy to the regions. The first of which are student advocates to the regents, or STARS. Student advocates apply to be, to kind of like they submit applications to be able to go behind the scenes at regents meetings and gain more access to the regents at each meeting. And these students, they apply through UCSA, and the EVPs at each campus vote on 2 to 3 students to do so. And so, like I said, the STARS go behind the scenes and they're able to talk to not only the regents, but it's also really important to note that regent staff, UCOP staff, and chancellors at each campus are also at these meetings, and so they're able to go behind the scenes, eat breakfast and lunch with them between sessions, speak to regents, catch them kind of like backstage and like talk to them about specific issues that they're passionate about. And so this year, one of the main things we would like to do is to be more strategic with our student advocates in making sure that they're prepared for regents meetings, that they kind of have a plan and goals going in, and that we're able to support them as much as possible. Another form of advocacy that there is to the regents are student observers. Every year, basically, a student is selected to be a student observer for each regents committee. And basically what this enables them to do is they are a star at each meeting, and then they also, at each committee session, are provided with the ability to address the regents on one specific agenda item. So like this is a really, really important position because they get a guaranteed slot to have a speech at their session. And so this is also somebody that we want to utilize and work with more this year, especially on specific agenda items in committees that really matter, which all of them do. So it's something that's really important to us, is working with our student observers. And last but not least, we have 2 student regents. One of them is a student regent designate, which means that they don't vote. And then their second year, they become the student regent, like the voting student regent. And so these are kind of really important positions because, as Nami said, the regents are not democratically elected. They're appointed by the governor, which means that oftentimes they don't really interact with students and they don't really seek out that kind of interaction. And so when they speak about things like campus climate, financial aid, like admissions to the UC, a lot of times the kind of information they're basing their votes on are based off of data that the UC provides them rather than like the student experience itself. And so it's really up to the student regents to bring that kind of like student voice and student experience to the table, and also pull in other regions to kind of hear us out as well. And so something that we're really trying to do this year is make sure that our student regents and regents in general are more informed about what's happening on our campus on the ground, because that is absolutely kind of a gap in knowledge, and also due to like gap in accessibility to those to the board. So we're going to go over a little bit like our approach to regental advocacy for this year. So this is kind of a brief overview. So prior to each regents meeting, what we will be doing is basically creating a leave behind with a list of advocacy priorities and campus updates. And we're going to do so by collaborating with different student organizations who are already working on system-wide or campus-wide initiatives that they might kind of want to uplift or want to like bring to the regents, and working with them to collect data, testimonials, write proposals, and identify goals that they can pursue at the regents meeting, whether it's to be able to get a meeting with certain regents that they've like power mapped and like want to target or want to ask for, to get meetings with the student regents, to get kind of like confirmation of support for certain things, etc. On the other side, also analyzing regents meeting agendas, which drop around like 10 days prior to each regents meeting. And kind of taking note of any relevant or important agenda items. Oftentimes things like if the regents are choosing or wanting to vote to increase tuition, or if they're talking about campus climate, or like things that really affect our campus and UC campuses as a whole, and noting those down in our advocacy priorities as well. And using that to create public comment workshops, create informational posts on Instagram, and also meeting with the student regents prior to each meeting to brief them on our advocacy priorities and ask them to bring these, ask them to kind of like collaborate with us and help us identify and reach some of the more harder to reach stakeholders. And then at each regents meeting, we're trying to this year mobilize as many people as possible to regents meetings. So if they're in LA, obviously we're able to kind of mobilize a larger amount and kind of take smaller delegations to San Francisco. The regents meetings are split between UCLA and UCSF. And so basically, like I had said before, the goal is to sort of set goals for tackling different advocacy priorities, and also to try to give as much public comment as possible. And so kind of planning and taking a delegation to each regents meeting. And then after the regents, our goal is to recap what happened, take notes at the regents meeting and recap like any takeaways, analysis on agenda items, and create a post about that. Okay, the last thing we're going to do is just really quickly go over sort of our advocacy priorities for this regents meeting that James and Nami have been in San Francisco kind of like speaking about.
So the first ask we have, it was in collaboration with the Muslim Student Association at UCLA, and that was mainly targeting religious accommodations. A lot of this is stuff that's already established in California Ed Code, but it sort of falls into that area of being shaky with the constitutional autonomy. So we're trying to implement more system-wide support across all UC campuses. So the first thing is adequate multi-faith prayer spaces. Currently, the only available space that's designated by UCLA on campus is like this outdoor tent that is not at all adequate or accessible for the needs of prayer spaces or even just like other meditation spaces. So we want to make sure that a proper funding is applied for a proper space, like a proper room for this to actually occur. Another thing is expanded access to halal certified dining options. Residential halls are currently very limited in the amount of halal dining options they offer, because there are certain limits on halal dining that not only include the content of the meal, but also the preparation. And a lot of that is not fully adhered to by dining, so it can limit the amount that students that adhere to this dining are able to eat. Similar issues apply to ASUCLA dining locations, like those mentioned. So we want to make sure that anywhere on campus, Muslim or halal adherent students are able to get the food that they need. And then this is more talking about the clear implementation of California Ed Code, where professors must include in their syllabi accessibility issues for religious accommodations, where that can be PTE access for certain times, more accommodating for prayer times. During Ramadan, being more welcoming of students who need to leave for whatever reason or who may struggle with time. Sort of just making sure that in syllabi it is listed that there are accommodations for students that need them for whatever reason.
Yeah, our second priority is kind of in collaboration with our campus retention committee and student initiated outreach program at or student initiated outreach committee here at UCLA. And so actually one of our student advocates for this regents meeting is our interim chair for the CRC. And so we have this on our like our campus priorities, supporting as a support to her, and kind of making sure that the regents are still paying attention to what's happening on our campus in terms of supporting student-initiated programming. We have kind of the resolution we passed a couple months ago, Daily Bruin article, and their Instagram if you guys would like to take a closer look. Basically, our asks kind of mirror theirs, which is to ensure that our administration respects kind of the governance structures of CRC and SIOC, as well as the allowance of, funding and supporting student staff and professional staff in their programming in fall quarter.
Okay, our third priority is regarding the research settlement. This is also incredibly ongoing as we just did have the official settlement draft from the federal admin and also with the lawsuit that was just released. Specifically for us, we're taking it more from an undergraduate perspective, where GSA and the FA are focusing more on how the limits to research will affect them, because research is sort of like the lifeblood of graduate students and professors. It's not as essential to the undergraduate experience, so we're more so focusing on how the administrative components of the demands would sort of harm students on campus. Our first task is just not paying that $1 billion settlement. It's just entirely unaffordable, especially for one campus of a statewide public system. And in regard to the administrative demands, they would like limit protests even further than they already are, so student expression will be further limited. That would increase restrictions on the holistic nature of admissions, even though there is allowance with the current Supreme Court ruling on affirmative action for students to discuss their racial and ethnic background in their admissions. This would limit their ability to do so, basically limiting them from speaking about their own life in their admissions. Also regarding transgender students, they will not be able to live in housing or to participate in sports with their gender identity, and also will be unable to access gender affirming care from UCLA health facilities. As well, there's also an abolition of scholarships specifically for racial or ethnic groups. So even if for students that are able to attend school, they may not be able to afford it because they cannot access these scholarships anymore. And finally, there will just be a total limit on academic freedom of the university because of the implementation of an outside monitor of UCLA, basically just allowing the federal admin to sort of get their hands on any administrative decisions made in UCLA and allow them to sort of just swing it for whatever political push they have at the moment.
Okay, so this one's a little bit in the weeds, so I'm going to try to explain it like really clearly, but this is going to be a really big priority for us in November, and so I just want to like prime you guys now. Like we'll be doing a lot of advocacy related to the cohort tuition model, especially with the UC Student Association. So basically the cohort tuition model is this model for for tuition that UCOP created and piloted a couple years ago, which basically says that each incoming class has their tuition frozen for up to, I think, 5 years after they enter the university. But then after each class, they're allowed to raise the tuition. So what that means is that if I enter as a freshman, my tuition is frozen for the next 6 or something years that I attend college. But someone who's entering the year after me is going to have to pay more than me. So, a very interesting model that I think they think like vindicates them from a lot of student retaliation, because if our tuition is fixed, why would we advocate for students coming after us? But that's not true because we care. So, what they're currently looking to do, because the pilot program is supposed to expire next year, but they're preemptively revising and voting on it right now. So that's also an interesting thing that's happening. But they're looking to change things from that program to allow them to increase tuition from 5% to 7%. So this does not even include inflation. This is just like the general amount that they can raise tuition. It's not even like adjusted for inflation. So interesting choice. And then they're also reducing the amount of that revenue that turns back into financial aid by 10%, which is incredibly unpopular because if you're making students pay more and you're making the university more unaffordable, it's only logical that you should put more money towards allowing more students to be able to attend the UC. They also want to continue using the step increase, even though it was supposed to be a temporary thing. And then there's some summer session stuff that's like not that important, but it's, yeah. Why does this matter? So what we're doing basically is the UC is saying that incoming classes have to pay more, but they're not investing back into students. So you're really paying for a degree that is of equal value to someone who came a year before you, but solely because you're a year late, you're paying more, which is an interesting model and kind of unjust, like in and of itself, but it's fine. And then the benefits of the increased tuition, I think this is the biggest point, are not going back towards students. They're trying to reduce the financial aid return to aid, which is not good, especially given that financial aid at the state and federal levels are already at risk. So it's also going to be more middle income families that are bearing the brunt of these costs. So students that do not rely on financial aid but struggle to meet their basic needs, which I'm sure there are plenty, and I'm sure a lot of us like are familiar with that situation as well. So those are the students who are going to be affected the most. So a lot of our advocacy, next slide, is going to be just raising these concerns in meetings. They've already rebanded this cohort tuition model to something called the tuition stability plan, which sounds a lot better, but as we know, like a lot of the changes that they're proposing are quite harmful. We also want to involve a lot more middle income and low income student voices into this. Like Sherry said earlier, the regions are presented with UCOP data, so from the Office of the President, and a lot of that time, the data is not disaggregated, it is not representative of the student experience. So this is a key example of where the UCOP report found that low-income students would actually be benefited by this, but just logically, I think we can say that's not true. And then also we're trying to urge them to at least consider a lot of revises to the proposal, like not bumping it from 5 to 7%, not doing the step increase, and then stabilizing summer tuition as well. So that's kind of a brief overview, but please pay attention to the cohort tuition advocacy stuff because I think it impacts all of us and it's going to be a big thing for November because that's when it's going to be voted on. You're muted.
Sorry, I was muted. Sorry, I was gonna say, I'm gonna go through the rest of these like pretty quickly so that I know we have a really long meeting. But our next priority is our next priority is regarding AB 481, which says that basically any state entity has to kind of annually approve their use or purchasing of any military grade equipment. And because the UC is a state entity, they are required to do so. And so this is something that they are doing tomorrow. And the kind of important thing to note is that this year they placed that agenda item on consent, which means that it doesn't even have any discussion or doesn't even need to get voted on. And I don't think I even have to state like the importance of this agenda item, like how students have been feeling unsafe on campus and how a lot of our students of color have been kind of targeted by the mass amounts of police presence. And UCLA is asking for even more military grade weapon. And so kind of what we're asking for is, like I said, to take it off of the consent calendar. And number two, to split the vote up instead of just voting to approve of existing and approve of the further purchasing of equipment, to split that vote up into two and separately approve the like existing equipment because they will do that anyways, and then have another vote to disapprove of the further purchasing of equipment because why do you need more?
And then the last thing is that the UC budget is like a year-long process. So this is the next year's budget that they're beginning conversations about in this meeting. And I think we can all kind of speak to our own desires for the UC budget, but I think a big thing that we want to emphasize is that given all of the priorities that we talked about, the CRC, SIOC changes, and then the research cuts, as well as why am I blanking? The religious accommodations things as well. These are all funding asks at the end of the day. And I'm sure we've all noticed that a lot of student orgs and programs have been severely impacted by recent events, and always are at a loss for funding. And so what we really want to advocate for and emphasize in our conversations with UCOP and the regions is when creating this budget, like now more than ever, given that the state is not investing in us, given that the federal government is not investing in us, making sure that the UC is investing in student-initiated programs like basic needs and like access and retention programs. This is the time to do it. So these are conversations that we're starting this meeting. We're going to talk to UCOP about it. And then kind of in future meetings where the more formal budget process begins, continuing to show up to public comment and talk about how our student programs have been impacted by losses of funding will be super important. But yeah, thank you so much for listening to us yap about the regions. I hope you guys took away something from it. Please reach out to us anytime, especially if you're planning on doing any kind of system-wide advocacy. It's really helpful for us to know those things that we, in our conversations with the regions and UCOP, like we're not like, we know exactly what's happening. And if they ask us stuff, we can be like, this is like, yes, this is what is happening. And also we want to involve as many people to like co-create a lot of these agenda or these legislative, I call it legislative for advocacy priorities. So making sure that we're involving as many student orgs and voices in this is important. But yeah, that's the end of my spiel. Thank you guys for listening.
Yes, thank you, everyone.
Okay, yeah. So, I know we've been going for a while now, so wanted to actually thank you, Harem, because I got this idea from you, but bouncing it back to everybody in this meeting, what's one thing that you learned or something that stuck out with you if you guys want to share out loud? Yeah. Thanks for listening to us talk.
I think for the sake of time, can we have only maybe two people share? Yes, Divine.
Yeah, this was amazing and so educational, so helpful. Thank you, Sherry, James, and Nami. I think one thing that really stood out to me was just like some of the new changes that the UC regions are trying to do, such as like the raising the tuition for new students. I think that's what you guys were saying. That was something I really wanted to know. So I appreciate you guys.
Joy.
Yeah, thank you, Sherry, Nami, and James for presenting. It was very, lots of important information and you guys communicated it very well. Something that stuck out to me was during the public comment period, we should, or we should consider doing a blast. I believe you called it like a blast public comment where you have like 40 plus, 40 plus, I guess, opinions that kind of agree with your sentiment. And that can be very helpful in getting your ask across.
Thank you. I think we'll just keep it for that. But I want to say thank you personally. Thank you, James and Nami, for taking the time to present with us tonight. And I know you guys probably had a long day at Regents, and I'm looking to seeing both of you tomorrow morning. Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you, Sherry, for this presentation. We'll now be moving on to our next presentation, which is, Jessica, do you know if the Safe Space for Youth presentation is still?
Yeah, can we actually table that to week 1 if possible?
No worries.
Awesome, thank you.
We can strike it, Tommy. But yes, thank you so much again to our presenters. We'll now be moving on to our appointments. Our first is Arman Aksu with the Academic Senate, the Legislative Assembly. Tommy, whenever you're ready, can you please pull up the timer and I'll explain for everyone here for appointments the procedure. So everyone will get a 1-minute introduction, and then you'll get a 15-minute question and answer period where council members will be able to ask you any questions regarding your experience or the role. You'll be given a 1-minute closing statement, and afterwards, ARC will be giving their recommendations. Afterwards, council will deliberate, and we will then motion for a vote. With that said, Arman, if whenever you're ready, you may begin your 1-minute opening statement.
Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you. My name is Arman Aksu, and I am applying for the Legislative Assembly. as a student senate representative. My background is that last year I was the director of marketing and publicity for the Academic Affairs Commission, and this year I am the co-assistant chief of Senate for the Academic Affairs Commission. I think this gives me a unique perspective to bring into the Legislative Assembly because it allows me to be able to understand what is going on within multiple different subcommittees, all of the subcommittees, and then make sure that the students' perspectives and students' voices that are being voiced and found in those committees are not only brought to the Legislative Assembly, but are continued to hear all the way through the vote. I am a second year at UCLA and I am on the pre-law track, and I think that I have a very strong motivation to make sure that students' voices are heard at our school the way they should be. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now be moving on to our 15-minute in question and answer period. Council members, if you have any questions, please raise your hands. Yes, Kishan.
Hi, my name is Kishan Naik. I'm filling in for the transfer student representative. What did you learn the most from being the director of marketing and publicity for the Academic Affairs Commission?
Perfect. What I learned is that it takes a lot of effort to actually be able to hear the voices of the students. And so it's not just a haphazard method that you have to go through. You really have to go comprehensive. So that means this year, my differences of what I want to do is I want to make sure that there's a website where students are able to actually input in their opinions. And beyond that, I want to make sure that there is social media broadcasting that of what we are doing in the Senate and how they can voice their opinions throughout all of our USAC offices. And then I want to make sure that that presence doesn't just stay online, but that presence is brought in person. And I think that's really what I learned was a big difference from last year's. Instead of just having a website, but really that it has to be pushed so that way students are aware of it.
Are there any other questions for Armand today? Final call. Seeing as there are none, we'll be moving on. Thank you, Armand. We'll now move on to your 1-minute closing statement.
Thank you so much, everybody, for giving me the opportunity to explain myself to you guys. I really look forward to working with each of you guys, as well as all of the students at UCLA, because at the end of the day, the Academic Senate is a huge and powerful place, and it is full of faculty, and it is there to address the administration, is there to make policy change. And what we are there for is to make sure that the student policy is heard. And I want to make sure that everybody is aware that that is my number one priority. I understand that we are going to have to work with the administration at certain times, and I want to ensure that my priority will always be for the students. And at the same time, I understand that we might have to work with the administration. What that means is building connections with them, finding reasons for them to want to work with the students, because really UCLA is about the students. It is here to teach us. It is there for us to have opportunities. And that is what I am urging my platform on how I want to make change this year in the LGA. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Whenever we get ARC recommendations?
Yes. ARC unanimously recommends Armand for the Academic Senate Legislative Assembly by a 3-0 or by a 3-0 vote. Armand demonstrated a strong commitment to transparency through concrete ideas such as creating a website and using social media to connect students with Senate decisions, while also prioritizing equity and advocacy for marginalized student groups. ARC is confident that his professionalism, proactive approach, and dedication to amplify student voices will make him an effective representative.
Thank you, Tommy. We will now be moving on to council deliberations. If you have any comments or other concerns, please raise your hands. Yes, Chris.
Hello, Council. Yeah, I'm unmuted. Hello, Council. I'll briefly mention that I will be abstaining from the vote because I know Armand personally. Last year, as he mentioned, he served as my director. And this year, he serves as one of my two co-assistant chief of senates. I'll also add that what I really enjoy about Armand is his ability to bring solutions to the table. I think a lot of times we speak in the abstract when it comes to policy, when it comes to law, when it comes to changes within UCLA, but Armand has an ability to really bring in concrete solutions. I mean, he mentioned many of those during his presentation today, during his interview, and so I heavily encourage you all to vote for him. He also is already the assistant chief of senate, so he would need access and stuff like that to the academic senate.
Tell me.
And then I just want to remind everyone, I don't think you have to abstain from a vote unless you financially benefit. Jonathan, just want to confirm that.
That's correct, I think, Tommy. Right, Jonathan?
Yes, that's correct. I think Jonathan stepped away for a minute.
No worries. Thank you, Jessica. Alrighty, thank you. I guess we'll motion for a vote. Can someone please motion for a vote for our candidate today? Yes, Tommy.
Yes, I motion to appoint Arman Aksu to the Academic Senate Legislative Assembly for the 2025-2026 academic year.
I second that motion.
Tommy motions, Chris Espino seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining. With votes of 11 to 0, that motion passes and Armand Aksu is appointed to the Legislative Assembly in the Academic Senate for 2025-2026 academic year. Right. We'll now be moving on to our next candidate. I do not want to mispronounce your name, but for the Drugs-Free School Committee, whenever you're ready, you may begin your 1-minute opening statement.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, hello. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Tanishka Gangavelli. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm a first-year student majoring in anthropology on the pre-med track. I'm applying to be a part of the Drug-Free Schools Committee because I genuinely want to be directly involved with the body, dedicated to ensuring that our students' voices are heard and needs are met. I think now more than ever, student voices are important, and so I don't want to be a bystander, but someone who knows how to make a difference behind the scenes. I'm also super passionate about student wellness. In high school, I led the largest healthcare club on campus. And I sort of want to be able to do what I've done at UCLA as well. I have experience running a lot of community outreach events, whether it be mental health for Red Ribbon Week or blood drives. And so wellness is a very important topic for me. I want to contribute by bringing the freshman student perspective to programming and initiatives around alcohol and drug education and help students connect with resources. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now be moving on to your 15-minute question and answer period. Council members. Yes, Tommy.
Hi, Tanishka. I guess my question for you today is, can you please explain to us one specific kind of project or example you would like to undertake as a member of this committee this year?
Thank you so much for that question. One initiative or project I'd like to undertake is definitely a stigma towards alcohol and drug use. I have experience with facing stigma when talking to other people, but in different environments. And I think as large as UCLA is, there is a lot of stigma when it comes to finding resources when you need to. And so I definitely want to create a project where that stigma is sort of discussed and sort of broken down, so the campus feels more of a safe space for people of all backgrounds and all perspectives to come in and feel safe enough to get the resources they need in order to feel supported.
Thank you, Hannah.
Hi, my question for you is just to give a little context. Within the past few years on campus, there have been various efforts to increase accessibility to healthcare supplies like Narcan and fentanyl test strips, specifically to students on the Hill. And so I was just wondering what your thoughts are on that and how you would use your position on the committee to further this initiative.
Of course, I think access is super important, and there are many barriers when it comes to getting access to important, especially like things like Narcan access. I definitely think we should have strong programming towards letting students know where the access points to finding different ways to access those Narcan, for example, whether it be in a residence, hallways, posters, things like that. I think letting people know that marketing or outreach when it comes to telling people that these resources are available and finding clear pathways to where you can get those resources is super important. So definitely working on doing that map of where different resources are located makes it easier to have easier to break down the barrier of inaccessibility. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other final questions? I'll offer one. We'll offer one more question. Hannah.
Hi, just one more question. So the Drug Free Schools Committee, of course, works not only with students, but faculty and staff as well. And I wanted to know your approach to kind of working with and in those spaces.
Definitely. I think a point of creating a safe environment includes both staff as well as students. And the way we interact with people on campus who have a better idea of how things are run is super important to establish a safe space to whether it be accessing resources or just talking in general about your life and what issues or crises you're facing. So I think definitely involving faculty who are interested, sending them regular details about various initiatives that are happening beforehand so they can be able to reach out or even just mention it to students who do need it. I think working hand in hand with faculty and just keeping them in the loop of everything makes it way easier to create a safer space, a space where students are not afraid to find support when they need to. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. We will now be moving on to your 1-minute closing statement.
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity for an interview. I just want to restate that I'm passionate about promoting wellness in different spaces wherever I go. I think at UCLA, as big of a school this is, it's so important to create safe spaces, especially when it comes to more vulnerable topics like alcohol and drug use. I have come in situations where I had to help and support other people around me who are dealing with that. And I think having that support system is absolutely instrumental, again, with the large school. So I'm passionate about wellness, but I'm also really passionate about being a body that is dedicated to helping students and achieve their needs. I really appreciated the Regents advocacy presentation because it's something that I'm looking forward to doing maybe in the future, but I just want to seek an appointment so I can be directly involved rather than being a bystander. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Can we get our recommendations, please?
Yes. All right. ARC members abstained from making a recommendation on Tanishka's appointment to the Drug Free Schools Committee, with all 3 members choosing to abstain. While Tanishka expressed a passion for healthcare equity and connecting students to resources, ARC found her answers lacking in detail and remained uncertain about her knowledge of the committee's responsibilities and her ability to carry out the role.
Thank you for the ARC recommendations. We'll now be moving on to council deliberations. Please raise your hands if you'd like to mention a comment. Tommy?
Yeah, I would like to say, like, I think ARC we found a little bit of a concern, like, kind of like with the overall just broad and vagueness of the answers. However, that being said, she clearly has a passion for healthcare and student well-being and the topic at which the committee encompasses. This was a committee whose appointments were never fully filled last year, and this is the first appointment we've received this year, and the school year is about to start. So I would just say I'm probably in favor of appointing her to this committee for this year.
Chris?
I will say that I do not serve on ARC, albeit I thoroughly enjoyed listening to you, Tanishka. I think that I concur with what Tommy is saying with respect to the passion. I see the passion. I mean, I certainly see the passion, and I hope that USAC appoints you so that you're able to develop the skills necessary to to create that change that you so desire.
Thank you, Chris. If there are no other deliberations, I ask that we move on to it. Yes, Hannah.
Sorry, I was just going to give a little bit of quick context also to this committee. Historically, at least to my knowledge, they, haven't met that often. And so while I totally understand kind of concern for vague answers, like I will also put out there that there is not much information out there to be known about this committee. And I'm really excited to see it kind of be revitalized this year.
Thank you, Hannah. We'll now I'll be moving on for a vote. So whenever anyone can someone please motion? Tommy?
I motion to appoint, let me try to get this name right. Tanishka Gangavelli to the Drug Free Schools Committee for the 2025-2026 academic year.
I second that motion.
Tommy motions, Chris Espino seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining. With a vote 12 to 0, Tanisha Gangavelli is appointed to the Drugs Free School Committee for the 2025-2026 academic year. Congratulations. We'll now be moving on to our third appointment for the night, Madison Jones for the LGBTQ Affairs Committee. Madison, whenever you're ready, you may begin your 1-minute opening statement.
Hi, my name is Madison Jones. I'm applying for the Committee of LGBTQ Affairs. This is my second year going into UCLA, and my major is political science and gender studies. After I get my bachelor's degree at UCLA, I will go to law school in hopes of becoming a civil rights attorney. I hope to continue pursuing a career in advocacy, and I want to continue fighting for the rights of my community. I think I'm a good fit for this community and this committee because I have a lot of experience in student government. I've worked directly with the UCLA LGBTQ Campus Resource Committee, and I have a lot of experience talking with students, making sure that they're heard, listened to, and valued. And I think that that's more important now than ever to make sure that students feel listened to when they feel consistently attacked from recent political decisions that have been made, especially targeting universities.
Thank you. We'll now be moving on to your 15-minute question and answer period. Any questions today for Madison? Hannah?
Hi, Madison. My question for you is just kind of generally, what are some things you're excited to advocate for or work on throughout the year on this committee?
Yeah, so I'm really excited to actually speak directly with students and hear about their experiences on campus. I think that it's really important to be able to listen to the experiences of students when they're going through their academic journey. I know how isolating that it can feel when you don't have the support from your family or your loved ones. So I'm hoping to provide a safe space for students and let them know that they have a place where they can be listened to. They can report any instances of discrimination, or if they feel any lack of support anywhere. I want them to be able to access the resources that can help them find that support. So I'm hoping to be able to connect them with different committees. I want to work with EDI as well, and I want to work directly with the Campus Resource Center, as I've worked with them in the past. But overall, I think I'm really just excited to come up with more activities and ways to build a bigger community on campus, because I think that's something that we still definitely lack.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for Madison? If not, thank you so much, Madison. We'll now be moving on to your 1-minute closing statement.
Okay. Yeah, so I just want to restate how grateful I am to have had this opportunity. I'm really glad to have been able to speak with all of you guys and speak a little bit more about my experience in the past. I've worked with a bunch of different organizations. I've done student government for years. I'm passionate about the advocacy and the work that I do. And I'm really excited to be able to put work into this and fight for my community, especially in a time where our rights are constantly being threatened and identities are being invalidated every day, especially on universities and on university campuses. And I'm hoping that I can create that space for students where they feel heard and welcomed. And I just want to bring that positive energy to students that they feel like they can come to and they can get the help that they need or be transferred to the resources that they need to deal with any academic issues that they might face with professors or outside of campus. I'm just hoping that they know that they can bring that to the committee and we can address it accordingly. And I don't just want to give them a generic answer or solution. I want to work with them to personalize it to them and their scenario so that they feel like they're actually getting the help that they need. And I'm just really excited for this opportunity. And I hope that I am able to bring my experience to a higher degree and make active change on campus.
Thank you so much. Can we please get ARC recommendations?
Yes. The Appointments Review Committee unanimously recommends Madison Jones for the LGBTQ Affairs Committee by a 3-0 vote. Madison demonstrated a strong commitment to queer advocacy, intersectionality, and community building, emphasizing the importance of expanding resources, fostering inclusivity, and creating open spaces for students facing discrimination. ARC is confident in her passion, knowledge, and ability to listen and uplift marginalized voices, which will make her an effective and empathetic representative on the committee.
Thank you so much. Can we please have council deliberations if there are any? Please raise your hands. If there are none, can we please move on to motion for a vote? Yes, Tommy.
I motion to appoint Madison Jones to the LGBTQ Affairs Committee for the 2025-2026 academic year.
Second.
Tommy motions, Joy, sorry. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Tommy motions, Joy seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining. With a vote of 12 to 0, that motion is approved, and Madison Jones is approved to serve on the LGBTQ Affairs Committee for the 2025-2026 academic year. We will now be moving on to Tracy for the Academic Senate Legislative Assembly. Tracy, whenever you're ready, you may begin your 1-minute opening statement. Is Tracy here?
Hi.
Hi. Are you
I'm
are you
sorry.
were you given talking? permission? Or no? Sorry about that.
Oh yeah, no worries. I'm ready to start.
Okay. Yeah, you feel free to start whenever you're ready.
Hi, my name is Tracy Lay. I use she, her pronouns. I am a second year transfer, fourth year student, and I major in political science and minoring in public affairs. I will be applying for the Legislative Assembly at UCLA, I am currently a co-assistant chief of the Academic Senate, as well as a research assistant. Last year, I was an academic senator for the undergraduate council. I strongly believe that the knowledge that I possess from my time understanding how drafting policy proposals work can really translate into how I can vote on either approval, disapprovals, and amendments of academic policies. I also believe that, in my opinion, that the legislative that I will represent students first and utilize my passion for public service to help. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now be moving on to your 15-minute question answer period. Council members, please raise your hands if you have any questions. Yes, Kishan.
Yeah, I just have a quick question. What is a specific experience and knowledge from your time on the council last year that you think that you can build on and continue on for this year?
Yes, so something that I was able to learn was how policy proposals were drafted. And given my knowledge of knowing kind of the intents behind how academic policies are being drafted, I can, and also my knowledge of student groups such as USIE, the Student Initiated Education Program, I can utilize that knowledge and vote and not only contribute to discussions that are related that that are related on voting on these particular academic policies, so I can have a more represented opinion and to ensure that student interests are first when voting on certain proposals in the Legislative Assembly.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Seeing as there's none, we'll be moving on to your 1-minute closing statement whenever you're ready.
I would like to first thank the Undergraduate Student Council for allowing me to explain why I would be a great fit for this academic senate position. Should I be appointed as an academic senator, I will ensure that student interests come first and that I work with the committee executives of the Legislative Assembly to ensure that the votes that I cast on the academic policies that do come to this committee are representative of the undergraduate student body. Thank you so much once again, and thank you for considering my application.
Of course. We'll now be moving on to ARC recommendations.
Yes, I have those. All right. The Appointments Review Committee unanimously recommends Tracy for the Academic Senate Legislative Assembly by a 4-0 vote. Tracy brings extensive experience working on the Academic Senate, the Registrar's Office, and the Undergraduate Council, demonstrating both knowledge of administrative processes and a strong record of student advocacy. ARC is confident Tracy's commitment to transparency, equity, and amplifying student voices will make her an effective and reliable representative.
Thank you. We'll now be moving on to council deliberations. Yes, Chris.
I know Tracy, but I can still put in favor. So I'll just mention a few things about Tracy. Tracy is, I mentioned she mentioned, and I'll repeat, one of the co-assistants, chief of senates, and she's been doing a lot. She's been laying a lot of the groundwork when it boils down to expanding sort of the extent to which the Senate is viewed by the public. For example, she's contributed some brilliant ideas like having senators do office hours and having senators collaborate on more passion projects. In addition to that, she's recommended having an Instagram for the Academic Senate underneath the Academic Affairs Commission. And so there was a lot of ideas as well that come from Tracy. She's always trying to put the transfer students first, and that's something that I appreciate and a perspective that is so valued in the commission. Um, yeah.
Thank you, Chris. Are there any other council members? Seeing as there are none, we'll be moving on for a motion for a vote. Yes, Tommy.
I motion to appoint Tracy Le to the Legislative or Academic Senate Legislative Assembly Committee for the 2025-2026 academic year.
I second that motion.
Tubby motions, Chris seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining. With a vote of 11 to 0, that motion passes, and Tracy Lea is approved to serve on the Academic Senate Legislative Assembly for the 2025-2026 academic year. Congratulations.
Thank you.
This, I think it would be best if we took a 5-minute recess. Seeing as we have many more appointments and we have to approve more guidelines and obviously our executive session. Just for confirmation, I don't know if anyone, Jessica, Jonathan, Lorelai, is that an action item we have to vote on right now?
No, you can just ask for objection. If there is objection, then you take a vote.
All right, yeah, okay. Well, if there are no objections, please, if there are, please raise your hands or share. Okay. Seeing as there are none, we will be taking a 5-minute recess and rejoining at 9:05, not rejoining, sorry. Continuing our meeting at 9:05 p.m. Thank you. Okay, everyone, we'll be continuing our meeting. We'll now be moving on to Nicole for the BMAC. Tommy, can you fix the timer whenever you can? And Nicole, whenever you're ready, you may begin your 1-minute opening statement.
Hello, my name is Nicole Saman. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a third year, psychology major with a minor in anthropology on the pre-law track. I'm excited to apply for appointment to the Bruin Mental Health Advisory Committee, or BMAC, as a representative for Active Minds. Currently, I serve as UCLA Active Minds Chapter's Executive Director. And in that position, I have currently been working on initiatives to promote mental health awareness, reduce stigma, and connect students with resources, which is a very important goal that closely aligns with BMAC's mission. This role has also allowed me to gather and respond to student feedback directly, which I can take and bring to the committee when we are looking through policy and looking through different initiatives that we can take. Additionally, I feel I'm very suited for this position because I come from a background where mental health is often stigmatized, and that conversation can be very tough. So offering this unique perspective, I can bring that when we are thinking of resources that can be more inclusive and accessible. And I hope to contribute both my own experience just in my life as well as in Active Minds to advocate for stronger collaboration between students, as well as counseling and psychological services, campus administration, and the RISE Center.
Thank you. We'll now be moving on to our 15-minute question and answer period. Council members, if you can, please raise your hands. Yes, Kishan.
Yeah. What specific strategies will you use to advocate for all students here at UCLA?
Sorry, could you repeat that last bit? I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, what specific strategies will you use to advocate for all students at UCLA?
So currently, Active Minds is a very large chapter on campus. And with that, we do have a lot of unique experiences with students. And I'm so grateful that I am able to directly speak with those students, and it's not a separated sort of position. And in that, I get firsthand how they feel that these initiatives impact them. So through that, just through my club, I'm able to do that. I'm also involved in a bunch of other orgs, not as in the director position, but just as a casual member. And through that, I do hear a lot of different student experiences. So I feel my diverse ability to talk with many different people about their many different backgrounds, whether it be they're a transfer, they come from a specific cultural background, or any certain thing like that, I will take that into my own policy initiatives.
Thank you, Hannah.
Hi, kind of building off on that question. What are some specific initiatives or projects you're looking forward to working on with BMAC this year?
Specifically, just because of my heritage background, I'm Middle Eastern, and I feel a lot of times that the conversation is very vague and it's not talked about because it's often stigmatized. I want to make workshops that directly tie culture with mental health, which is something Active Minds has done in the past, but we haven't had the ability to make that as wide and onset on campus as we would like to do. And I'm hoping that through BMAC, with a wider community and more resources, I'm able to take those in. Often example that we had was kind of just an event fair, like embracing different cultures and how they view mental health, as well as ways in which those mental health topics can be changed. We were also hoping to host a webinar that can be like live streamed and people can join in as well.
Thank you. And do you have another question?
Oh, no, sorry, that was it. Thank you.
Alrighty. Final call for any other questions. If not, we'll be moving on to your 1-minute closing statement.
First of all, I would like to thank everyone for taking time out of their day for this meeting. I understand it's running very long, so I'll try to keep my statement very short. I just want to thank you all for also your work that you do. Even if it's not directly tied to mental health, it does very much improve students' ability to get access to these resources, such as what we were saying with the Senate, where we are trying to find different ways to make all types of resources accessible. So I'm very grateful for that. I would also just like to emphasize that I deeply care about making these resources available to everyone as someone who didn't have them when she was younger. And I understand that that can greatly change someone's trajectory in life, especially right now when we're at a time that has a lot of stress and a lot of crises going on, that we are there for our students. I've also seen how peer-led advocacy can change rather than just administration advocacy. Yeah, in addition, I would just like to say that I bring a bunch of leadership and collaboration skills that I feel would greatly help the committee in making the best policies for our students. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now be moving on to ARC recommendations.
Yep. So the appointment review committee unanimously recommends Nicole for the BMAC committee by a 3-0 vote. Nicole demonstrated a strong commitment to mental health advocacy, equity, and accessibility, emphasizing peer-driven approaches and bridging gaps for underserved communities. ARC is confident that her dedication to long-term policy impact and inclusive outreach will make her an effective and thoughtful member to the committee. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now be moving on to council deliberations. Yes, Hannah.
I'll keep this brief, but I just wanted to say that, you know, the connection and experience that Nicole has in Active Minds is so deeply tied to these different centers on campus, CAPS, RISE, that work with mental health. And I think that's such a valuable experience. And I'm really excited to see kind of what comes out of that connection.
Thank you. Are there any other council members? If not, we'll be moving on for a motion to vote. Can someone please motion for a vote? Tommy?
I motion to appoint Nicole Saman to the BMAC committee for the 2025-2026 academic year.
Second.
Tommy motions, Hannah seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining. With a vote to 11 to 0. Nicole Saman is approved to serve on the the BMAC, I'm forgetting the acronym, the BMAC for the 2025-2026 academic year. Congratulations. All right, we'll now be moving on to our next candidate, Jaylin Han, for the CSC Mini Fund Chair. Whenever you're ready, you may begin your 1-minute opening statement.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Hi, my name is Jaylin Han. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a rising sophomore majoring in microbiology, immunology, and molecular genetics. And I am applying for the position of chair in the Community Service Mini Fund Committee. I believe I'm a strong fit for this position because of my background in financial management and leadership. Currently, I serve as the Director of Finance for the Korean American Scientists and Engineering Association, and I'm also a member of the CSC Finance Committee. In these roles, I've overseen annual budgets, tracked expenditures, processed requisitions, and helped ensure equitable allocation of resources to service-oriented initiatives. Beyond these experiences, I am deeply committed to equity, accessibility, and transparency in funding processes. And I would like to bring that commitment to the mini fund so that all student organizations, no matter their size or background, feel supported in carrying out their community service projects.
Thank you. We'll now be moving on to 15-minute question and answer period from council. I have a question. What do you look forward to as serving as the chair for the CSC Mini Fund? And what experience will you use that you've gained from already serving in the CSC in utilizing these student fees?
Yeah, so what I look forward to the most, it would probably be, being part of the decision-making process that helps student organizations turn their service initiatives, their ideas into real impactful service projects. And it's really exciting to know that, our choices as students can directly support programs that address food insecurity, health access, or education for the underserved groups. And the experiences I lean on most are my financial management backgrounds, like, reviewing budgets and processing funding requests in KCA and the CSC Finance Committee. And also I do have other community engagement works, such as, for example, like clubs, health initiative clubs, and sort of my community engagement works, which sort of showed me what well-designed inclusive survey projects look like. So by combining those experiences, I would like to contribute both the technical skills to evaluate proposals and sort of the perspective to ensure funds are supporting meaningful and sustainable impact.
Thank you. Does anyone on council have any questions for her? Final call for questions. Seeing as there's none, we'll close that and move on to your 1-minute closing statement.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to interview for this role. And I believe my experiences and commitment sort of uniquely position me to serve as a effective mini fund chair. I want to ensure that all student organizations feel supported in accessing funding to serve the community. And sort of additionally, my multicultural background sort of shaped my perspective on equity and inclusion. I value amplifying diverse voices and ensuring all student-led service initiatives, regardless of their background or size, would feel welcomed to seek support. I believe this inclusive approach will help the mini fund reach more organizations and sort of maximize its positive impact on the UCLA and the greater LA community. I would be honored to contribute these strengths to the mini fund community, and I look forward to supporting UCLA students in their efforts to making a meaningful impact. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we please get ARC recommendations for our candidate?
Yep. The Appointments Review Committee unanimously recommends Jalen Hahn to serve as a CSC Mini Fund Committee Chair by a 3-0 vote. Jalen demonstrated strong experience and understanding of fund allocation processes, emphasizing transparency, equity, and accountability in distributing resources to student organizations. ARC is confident that her dedication, financial management skills, and commitment to supporting underrepresented communities will make her an effective and thoughtful member of the committee.
Thank you, Tommy. We'll now be moving on to council deliberations. Yes, Edison.
Yeah, so as Jane has shared, she's a member of CSC as well, and I would just like to say that I'm very glad that she's stepping out to serve as the chair for the CS Mini Fund. I think she has great background in finance and is very comfortable with handling the relevant matters. And I would just like to say that I am looking forward to working closely with her as the chair of CS Mini.
Thank you, Edison. Is there any other council members? If not, we'll be moving on for a vote. Can someone please motion? Yes, Tommy.
Yep. I motion to appoint Jalen Hahn as the CSC Mini Fund Chair for the 2025-2026 academic year.
I second the motion.
Tommy motions, Edison seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining. With a vote of 11 to 0 to 0, Jalen Hahn is appointed to the CSC Mini Fund Chair for the academic year 2025-2026. Congratulations, Jalen.
Thank you.
We'll now be moving on to Lori for the Campus Programs Committee. Whenever you're ready, you may begin your 1-minute opening statement.
Hi. Hi, my name is Lori Shrikian, pronouns she, her. I'm a first year transfer student going into my junior year at UCLA. And I'm a political science major and I'm applying to be on the campus programs committee. And I'm passionate about advocating for club funding as I know how transformative they can be for students, especially for marginalized groups. And it can be a way for students to find themselves and really create a community for themselves in such a big school. This is so important. And of course, with that, you need funding. And I know the CPC has the goal of enriching the cultural and educational environment of UCLA, which I would love to contribute to. And I think I'm a good fit for this position because of my familiarity with club funding from experiences like being a staffer in my college's Office of Student Life, which dealt with club funding and event requests, and as well as also being part of many student organizations myself. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now be moving on to your 15-minute question and answer period. Kashan?
Yeah, so on behalf of Hiram, she couldn't be here again today, but she wanted to mention that Lori has become an absolutely crucial part of the TSR office this summer. She's always showed up, participates, and is a team player that enjoys the work that's asked of her. And in terms of my question, how will you remain impartial when determining where funds go, especially with the large variety of clubs that we have here at UCLA and student organizations?
Yeah, so that's definitely a passionate of mine, trying to give everyone a fair standing in regards of funding. And I know that there's such a diverse amount of clubs with different focuses on campus. And you know, coming from a community college, I know people from so many different backgrounds and people with so many things to say. So I think that I definitely will focus on like getting the funding for like those marginalized groups and clubs focused on like things like international students, students with dependents, veteran students, and such. And I think that I'll bring fairness to that, especially, considering my background, knowing people in those groups, and making sure that all the funding is fair and, groups that maybe previously haven't been listened to are uplifted and have the chance to also be represented in clubs. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Seeing as there are none, we'll be moving on to your 1-minute closing statement. Whenever you're ready.
Okay. Thank you guys for having me and interviewing me. It's honestly been such an honor just to be here and listen to the whole process of how this goes. Your work is inspiring, and regardless of what happens, I would love to stay involved with the USAC. And I really believe that the work that's done here is really important for students. It's like for students, by students. And I think that's such an important thing when it comes to a large university when students can feel lost. There's always, the voice of the students representing this large student body, and I would love to be a part of that and, bring my experience and varying viewpoints from community college and as an advocate for transfer students as well as other marginalized groups, and overall make the USAC and his entire UCLA a more welcoming place for all those groups. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll now be moving on to ARC recommendations. I believe Tommy.
Yep. So, the Appointments Review Committee unanimously recommends Lori for the Campus Programs Committee by a 4-0 vote. Lori demonstrated a strong commitment to equity, transparency, and supporting underrepresented and transfer student communities, drawing on her prior experience with club affairs, funding processes, and student advocacy. ARC is confident that her dedication to fostering an inclusive and effective funding environment will make her a valuable and capable member of the committee.
Thank you so much. We'll now be moving on to council deliberations. Seeing as there are none, can someone please motion for a vote? Can someone please motion? Tommy?
Yeah, I motion. All right. I motion to appoint Lori Shrikian to the Campus Programs Committee for the 2025-2026 academic year.
Thank you.
Second.
I'll second.
Tommy motions. I heard Daniel. Seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining with a vote to 10 to 0 to 0. Lori's is approved, and Lori Shrikhan will serve on the Campus Programs Committee for the 2025-2026 academic year. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We'll now be moving on to Divine for the Academic Senate for Kodai, the campus for Kodai. I'm sorry, I'm like blanking out. Whenever you're ready, you may begin your 1-minute opening
Yes, of
statement.
course. Good evening, everyone. My name is Divine Ludmu. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a third-year political science major. I'm applying for the undergrad seat on the Community on Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion because this work is deeply personal to me. As a Nigerian immigrant who grew up in South Central LA, I know firsthand how it feels like to be overlooked and underrepresented by institutions, both in academic setting but also in policy. That experience is what pushed me into advocacy work, focused on dismantling the barriers for marginalized community. For example, through organizations such as Common Coalition, I have worked on advancing the Black Student Achievement Plan across LAUSD, which bring resources and cultural relevant support for Black students. Overall, those experiences are what bring me here today because I believe that representation is not just important, but it's fundamental, especially at UCLA, where students should feel supported and represented. Thank you.
Thank you, Divine. We'll now be moving on to your 15-minute question and answer period. Are there any questions for Divine? I can ask a question. What are you looking forward to while serving on Kodai?
One thing I'm truly looking forward is actually being part of understanding student needs. I feel like sometimes student needs, especially when they're unrepresented, is not truly represented. So being part of like that cycle and truly listening to people, because I feel like sometimes it's very important rather than just listening to speak, but actually listening to understand. And that's something I'm truly looking forward to. Being in like going to organizations and sitting down and understanding student needs, talking to students, and truly bringing like underrepresented students bringing the ideas to life because I like representing students at UCLA is very important because we are the future of tomorrow, and being part of Kodai is very important because that would give me and like other students the opportunity to truly speak up for what they believe and what needs to change at UCLA to make it a better place.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for Divine? Final call for questions. If there are not, thank you so much, Divine. We'll now be moving on to your 1-minute closing statement. Whenever you're ready.
I am so sorry.
Go ahead. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you so much, everyone. I deeply care about the show because, like I stated, I have seen what happens when majority voices are not included, and I want to make sure that that doesn't happen here at UCLA. Um, I have done research and advocate to make sure that students who are often overlooked are heard. And if I'm appointed, I will make sure that UCLA live up to the value of equity and inclusion by pushing for transparency, amplifying student concerns, and ensuring that policy reflect the needs of community they are impacting. I am ready to learn, collaborate, and bring forward the voices of those who are often goes unheard. Because at the end of the day, students deserve to feel safe, seen, and supported. And me being in this community and being appointed is a way for me to truly make sure that students are seen and supported and feel welcome, especially coming to UCLA. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Divine. We'll now be moving on to ARC recommendations.
Right. The Appointments Review Committee unanimously recommends Divine for the Academic Senate CODI Committee by a 4-0 vote. Divine demonstrated a deep commitment to equity, representation, and advocacy for marginalized communities, drawing upon her personal experience as a Nigerian immigrant and her prior research on policies impacting underrepresented students. ARC is confident that her dedication to transparency, student voice, and inclusive policymaking will make her an effective and impactful member of the committee.
Thank you so much. We'll now be moving on to council deliberations. Yes, Tommy.
I was gonna make a motion.
No worries. Well, Divine, if you do get appointed to this position, looking forward to seeing you on this role. And I'm also LAUSD alum, and it's great to see that you worked on the BSAP program.
Oh, that's so great. Thank you.
Well, yeah, of course. We'll now be moving on for a motion for a vote. So, Tommy,
I motion to appoint Divine Oladimu to the Academic Senate CODI Committee for the 2025-2026 academic year.
I second.
Tommy motions, Divine seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining. With a vote to 11-0, that motion passes, and Divine, for CODI. Yes, Divine is appointed to the Academic Senate CODI.
Thank
Congratulations.
you. Thank you.
We'll now be moving on to Arya Darvish for the Data Governance Committee. Whenever
They're
you're
not
ready.
present.
Oh, they're not? Okay. Well, we'll now be moving to Ariella for the Campus Sustainability Committee.
I think those are all consent, so they kind of just get appointed.
Yeah. Well, I still have to ask for if there's any objections. Seeing if there aren't any. Yes, tell me. Oh, no, I'm just asking, yeah. Well, seeing as there aren't any, we'll then be moving forward, and Ariella is appointed to the Campus Sustainability Committee for the 2025-2026 academic year. Is Betty here?
They don't have to be present, they're consent.
Okay. Well, same thing for Betty. Betty Chang, Campus Sustainability Committee. If there is any opposition, please raise your hands and share. If there are any. If not, Betty Chang is appointed to the Campus Sustainability Committee for the 2025-2026 academic year. We'll now be moving on to Lisbeth Esquivel for the Student Risk and Education Committee. Again, if there are any opposition, please raise your hands. Seeing as there are none, Lisbeth is appointed to the Student Risk and Education Committee. And finally, Edison. If anybody wants to oppose Edison's appointments. Great. Well, Edison, you're appointed to the Student Risk and Education Committee. We'll now be moving on to officer reports. I will be asking everyone to check out my officer report. And please, only executives and then administrative representatives. Tell me.
Mine will be written.
Sherry,
Written.
thank you. Orlando? Might not be here. Lorelai? Oh, Orlando, I think you might be, I don't know if you're talking, but we can't hear you. Or at least I can't hear you. Chris?
Sorry, I was skipped, but mine will also be written.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, sorry about that. Orlando, if you want to drop it in the chat, I don't know. It seemed like you were unmuted. If not, Lorelai? Lorelai, are you also having audio issues, or are there no updates on your end? We can move on to Lori. I don't think Lori's here either. No. Jonathan?
Hey, hi, hello, everyone. Just a couple updates from me. One second. I hope your week has been well. Just a reminder, if you are reopening applications for whatever reason, maybe you're doing interns or you have more roles to fill. Just a reminder, if your application is different from your previous application, to resubmit that to the form so that HR can approve prior to releasing. That goes for any like trip applications or special committee applications, anything of that sort, all needs to be approved by HR. Reminder that next week, not next week, sorry. Well, next week you have no meeting, but we will return back to your regular academic year schedule on the 30th, 7 p.m. Tuesdays in the Bruin Viewpoint Room in Ackerman Union. And your summer quorum will end, and your fully virtual will end as well. So it'll go back to 10, your quorum of 10 for the year. And reminder that that 30th date is your required Title IX training that's happening at 6 p.m. that hour before, also in the Bruin Viewpoint Room. And then week 2 will be your care training at 6 p.m. in the Bruin Viewpoint Room. Our webmaster, Annika, I'm sure a good amount of you have talked to him or he's helped you out. Is next week is his last week. He graduated back in spring and he was continuing on for the summer, but that ends with the start of the new quarter. We are in the process, excuse me, of hiring a new webmaster for you all. That should be coming on soon. We have interviews this week and next. But if you have anything urgent that you want to make sure is done before Aniket is gone, please let him know as soon as possible. Again, next week will be his last week. And then lastly, for your open house next week, reminder about your open house next week. My main plug here is for you all to clean your offices. Make sure they're presentable to the public and nice. And if there's any maintenance requests or anything of that sort that you need, please feel free to let us know. And yeah, it looks like Lorelai's back if you want to double back to her at some point. That's it.
Great, thank you. Lorelai?
Hello, apologies, had to step away really quick. A few updates and reminders. First off, if you haven't already, fill out the transition feedback form. This was a form sent out via email to gauge how you each felt as officers getting onboarded. The feedback you would want us to implement for future council, so that way they can have an easier transition or be better supported. So if you could do that, if you haven't already, by the end of today, I'll be checking to see how many submissions we got. It's anonymous, so again, anything that you think would be helpful for us to implement. That's what we're looking for. And then beyond that, I sent out some reminders for Module 3, which is for the module in the EdApp that is for the SGA requisition forms, just an overview of those, very similar to what today's presentation was, but more detailed information. And then also, if you have a funding body within your commission or office, reviewing the funding chair lessons as well, so that way you're aware of what your chairs are, going to be implementing this year. A few of you received that by mistake, so I'm going to be following up tomorrow on that to ensure we have everyone's documents and such. Reminder to look into appointing e-board appointments. If not, if you haven't been receiving them, maybe having the search committee look into that, so that way you can appoint as early as possible in fall, so they have ample time to prepare for spring elections. And then beyond that, I have a few after hours cards still available. So when you guys are on campus, week 1 or week 2, if you want to come by the office and quickly pick those up, so that way you can stay after hours in Kirkhoff, whether that's for meetings or for, taking supplies to and from a late programming event. You won't be able to access the building without that card. The building managers will be asking for that. So be sure to pick that up when you're available on campus. And then beyond that, again, mixer recommendations. If you have any administrators that you're looking to get in contact with, it's a great opportunity to meet with them during the mixer. So you have a, casual brief meeting and you can share some of your goals that you'd like to work on with them. So if you have any suggestions, please send them to me or Jonathan or any of the other advisors. But that's all I have. And then when it comes to the next set of items for the guidelines and applications, I can kind of preface the edits that have been made to each of those when that comes around. So that's it.
Thank you. And then I don't think Peter is here. All right, sounds good. We'll now be moving on to obviously the new business with all our new guidelines. What I think we'll be doing is asking everyone to go through one by one, and then afterwards we'll approve of them in one sweeping motion. So, can we please begin with the CAC ARC guidelines 2025-2026? Yes, Lorelai.
Yeah, just wanted to quickly share, of course, while you're reviewing these, some of the things that were adjusted for each of the guidelines was adding SGA policies to the top of documents. So that way all students are aware of the restrictions that apply to their funds once they get allocations. Beyond that, minor adjustments have been made by the chairs after meeting with myself. Thank you all for your patience and your help in, supporting your chairs, getting people appointed to these positions, and, preparing for week 0 allocations, hopefully. So again, to reiterate what Jonathan shared earlier, anything that needs adjustments in the future can be done at any USAC meeting at your guys' discretion or the chair that wants to bring them forward. So be aware that this is an end all be all if there are any things that you see need to be edited. The hope is just that we can get these kind of baseline documents up and ready, so that way applications can start being received, and then any of those minor details that need to be edited can be done so week 1.
Thank you, Lorelai. So Divine, I don't, if you'd like to share for the guidelines and the application.
Yeah, so this year's funding guidelines is that funding periods only occur one time during each quarter, meaning that organizations can register 3 times throughout the academic year, once each quarter, and funding is not provided for any summer events. And they can apply for up to $2,500. And CAC has the right to partially or fully grant the applied amount depending on the application's thoroughness, applicant's necessity, and program's benefits for the general undergrad student body. They must be a sole organization, and the program must have cultural relevance, either by promoting cultural diversity, various cultures, and/or cultural awareness. And what's funded is facility and venue costs, program supplies, technology, equipment, software, etc., honorarium, youth programs, which will be handled on a case-by-case basis, cultural, artistic, and activist trainings and teachings. And we have some more things listed that aren't funded. Food will only be funded if it has cultural significance. And maybe our additional policies is that payments are only made through checks and remain in that arc will apply to the bylaws. And so applications for the ARC fund will be due week 5 of fall quarter, and the hearing will be fall week 6, and decisions released week 7. Winter quarter application due week 4, decisions released week 7, and same for spring quarter, but decisions are released week 6. And there's more information on the doc. And the application is just explains the different rules again. Pretty straightforward. There's a few questions to answer, and then also submitting the budget is mandatory as well.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Divine? Alrighty, thank you, Divine. You covered both guidelines and application, right?
Can you repeat what you said, please?
You covered the guidelines and application, right? Or just one?
Oh, yes, I did go over the application. Yes.
Okay, but yeah, thank you. Well, thank you, Divine. We'll now be moving to the contingency programming guidelines and the programming application. Bethany, if you'd like to share a little bit about them.
Yeah, I'd love to. I'll go through both the guidelines and the application. So for the guidelines, there are a couple of very minor changes. As you can see, on the front, at the top of the page, if you have the document over, and open, there's just a quick summary of what all the deadlines are. This was always the same exact deadline every year, but just putting it in a straightforward way so everyone can see. A couple of other things is that there are some general items policies at the top, which is just general SGA policies that we added. This has always been what we aligned with, but we just wanted to make it more clear. So when students are looking at the guidelines, they don't have to refer back to, overall USAC funding guidelines as a whole, including not taking Venmo, Zelle, PayPal, and then also like not taking cash, things like that. In addition, there's another change. We just added off-campus activity policies, which again have always been the same policies, but we just wanted to make it more clear by actually putting it into FICOM guidelines. So student organizations do not have to refer to the overall guidelines and can just see it right here. And then lastly, the only difference is at the end, there's a section on grading process so that we did get a lot of questions throughout the year, the past 3 years that I've been on FICOM about what the process was for the funding and grading process. So just a quick summary paragraph of exactly how we allocate funding so it's clear to the students as well. In terms of the application itself, everything is the exact same as in previous years, asking for a statement of need, for general information about what events student orgs are applying for, as well as asking for the exact cost of what items will be. And so everything's essentially the same for that as well. But yeah, thank you. Happy to answer any questions. And also if there's any further questions, feel free to also email the FICOM email account.
Thank you, Bethany. Are there any questions for the contingency programming guidelines and application? If not, thank you so much, Bethany. We'll now be transitioning over to the CS Transpo guidelines and Tommy, for clarification, we have two up. Are they the same? Item E and F.
Yep, one sec, they're just a duplicate.
Okay, so no worries. Well, yeah, Edison, if you'd like to, I'll hand it all over to you, and if you'd like to share a little bit about the guidelines and the applications.
Yeah, sure. So, okay, yeah. So first up is CS Transpo. So, just a brief overview of CS Transpo is mostly to support student volunteers, and the transportation between like UCLA and their service sites. Um, Other than that, I don't think there's any major changes, from the previous years in terms of the timeline for the funding and any other areas. So pretty much the same as um what we have been doing and the projects that we or the organizations that we usually work with, they are very familiar with this and we get a lot of repeat applications year after year. Um, so the guidelines are as such and the application basically just goes over some of the instructions with regards to the timeline and some of the important things that they need to note. So for instance, um, they cannot apply or rather there's a cap on the funding that they can receive per quarter, and the deadlines that they have. um, I think I will also go through like the SFS guidelines as well, since like that is also under my purview. So for SFS, likewise, there aren't significant changes. SFS is just a slightly more broader funding for community service related events. So it's not just limited to transportation. When applying for this, applicants they have to submit a budget and I believe they are made to rank the items that they would like to seek coverage for. And basically, if we are not able to give them the full amount, I think we allocate based on the priorities that they have given to us. Likewise, the application form also indicates some important information as well as the timeline for the applications. Yeah.
Thank you, Edison. Are there any questions for Edison in the Transpo guidelines and application? If there aren't, well, Edison, I'll call back on you if you'd like to share about the SFS guidelines and applications, if it's the same.
Oh, I thought I mentioned it quickly, but
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
basically it's the same. So yeah, not much changes, and yeah, I think we can move on.
Okay, no worries. Thank you. Hannah, for our SWC programming fund.
Hey, so to my knowledge, there weren't too many, updates, major ones from the application last year. I think the biggest thing to note is that it's due 2 Mondays prior to whatever program or event, and then 4 Mondays prior if people need a cash advance is what we recommend. Um, Same kind of deal that this is funding for, health and wellness related programming on campus. And people can apply for a maximum of $750, but if they are a part of our student health network, they can apply up to $1,000. And that application to become a part of the network will come out in the next few weeks. But other than that, I don't think there's anything else I need to mention unless anyone has any questions. Happy to answer.
Yeah, thank you. If there are any questions, feel free to raise your hand. No, thank you. Thank you, Hannah, for sharing that. We'll now be moving on to Sherry with EVP bag guidelines and application.
Hi, yeah, similar to others, not too many like big changes. BAG is a grant for organizations who are planning any advocacy related programming or initiatives, and so they can apply for up to $2,000 and an additional $500 from our access and retention mini fund. The kind of timeline has stayed the same, 2 cycles a quarter, so 6 cycles in total. For each cycle, like each quarter, the first cycle is for events weeks 1 to 5. The second one for events weeks 5 to 10. The kind of biggest change that we made was we took away one of our other mini grants just because we didn't see much applications for our grows mini grant, and so we're trying to funnel that money back into the grant itself. Our application has stayed exactly the same, so nothing changing there other than we took away the like mini grant like additional question because it doesn't exist anymore.
Thank you, Sherry. Are there any questions for Sherry? If not, we'll move on to the CS mini funding guidelines and applications. Edison, I don't know if you want to share again.
Yeah, sure. So for CS Mini, there aren't any significant changes from the previous year. So the guidelines and applications are as such, and then we will start publicizing it once school opens. But yeah.
Alrighty, thank you, Edison. We'll now be moving on to our TGI funding guidelines and application. Joy, is there a link for this? Did you send it over to Tommy?
I sent it in the chat earlier in the meeting, but it might have gotten lost because I sent it in when we were doing our presentations.
No worries.
But yeah, there are 4 documents that relate to this item. The Green Initiative Fund, there are no significant changes either for funding guidelines and application, but the 4 documents were related to tokens. So TGIF, you can apply to either the tokens of appreciation, the main fund, or the capital infrastructure fund. And then there were 3 documents that I put in the chat relating to those. And then I also put TGIF funding bylaws and guidelines in the chat. So 4 documents total, but no significant changes.
Thank you. Did you send that in the chat right now? Or could you send it again so that Tommy can?
Yeah, I can send it again.
Thank you. We'll just wait for that to get updated.
All
Alrighty.
right, I put all of the links in.
Yes, thank you. And again, are there any questions for Joy? Perfect. We'll move on to the BOD funding guidelines and application. Not sure if that's Nico.
Yeah, I'll be presenting it. So for the guidelines, let me pull them up, sorry. The Undergraduate Student Association / Board of Directors, USA / BOD Programming Fund is for the purpose of programming costs of events organized and hosted by officially registered student organizations. There are 3 BOD funding cycles throughout the academic year, 1 per academic quarter. Eligible organizations are allowed to apply to a maximum of 2 times per quarter if they're hosting multiple events, 1 application per event, and then maximum allocation per application is $5,000. And the application is completely the same as last year. And then one other thing to note is that groups can apply for advertising or graphics, facilities or equipment rentals, honoraria, props, or costumes, events which are free of charge to UCLA students to the benefit of UCLA students and culturally / educational in nature are strongly prioritized. And once we appoint a USA/BOD funding director, I'm going to sit down with the funding committee, the full funding committee, and we will go over these guidelines and make sure that they are still appropriate for the fund and come back to council with any revisions we have. This is just so we can get the application open in case we don't appoint a USA/BOD funding director within the next few weeks.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Nico? If not, thank you, Nico. We'll now be moving on to our executive session for budgeting, for budget and funding. Tommy, can you, or I think, no, sorry. Can someone please motion to enter executive session? Oh, sorry. Sorry about that. Can someone tell me, I think if you'd like to motion for a vote, or Sherry, because I know I shared the language with you, or were you
Yeah.
not familiar?
All right. I motion to consider items A through O under new business and block, and I motion to approve items A through O under new business.
So one at a time, like one per
Oh,
guideline, one for
okay. Okay, then I motion to consider items A through O under new business and block.
Is there a second?
1 second.
Second.
Tommy motions, Hannah seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining. With a vote to 11 to 0 to 0, that is approved. And the language was it again, Tommy? Sorry about that.
That was just the motion in block. So now that we're in block, do you want me to motion to approve them?
Yes, please.
I motion to approve items A through O on the agenda.
Second.
Tommy motions, Hannah seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining. With a vote to 10 to 0 to 0, agenda items A through O and voted in block are approved. Well, yes, now, can someone please motion to enter executive session?
I motion to enter into executive session at 10:03 p.m. on 9/16/25.
I'll second.
Tommy motions, Daniel seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining. With a vote to 10 to 0 to 0, then